But and crazy injuries this week, like crazy.
Another crazy week, man. That's why we got to bring you on going into this weekend. I guess we can start with last night's game just because it's so fresh in everybody's mind. We saw Malik Nabers look like he went out with a concussion. We saw Micah went out with, I think what they're calling now is probably a high ankle sprain. But just give us a little bit more insight on those two and any other injury that might have happened throughout that game that I might have missed.
So overall, pretty good game. Unfortunately, the Giants just couldn't get into the end zone. I think that was the difference maker. You saw Malik, kid's a stud, right? Even targeting and forcing the ball. They had him in pre-snap motion, I think 10 different times, and he got the ball like 9 of them, which was pretty bananas.
Yeah.
We saw Micah Parsons, unfortunately, as he was trying to rush the passer, one of the guys who was landed on his foot, kind of like his foot was this way, and he kind of landed on it.
Yeah.
A little bit of stress to the ankle, to the knee, but usually it's more stress to the ankle, and that was pretty much what they were looking at. They had his shoe off. Left high ankle is likely what it's going to be. X-rays were reportedly negative, which means it's probably a grade 1, which is still annoying, but if you were to have one, this is probably what you'd want. Whether or not he's going to be able to come back in, we'll say 10 days is a separate discussion. But it could have been a lot worse. But these are frustrating injuries. These are prominently rotational injuries. So then he's trying to cross his body with his feet planted. He's not going to be able to do it, which is why it's so painful. Malik, he had a monster game. That kid is just a beast.
He's a beast.
When he was on the sidelines trying to make that beautiful catch, I think it was on 4th down. He just didn't catch it, but I think it was Diggs on him, and when he landed, he's trying to catch the ball, so he can't protect his body.
Right.
And if you saw earlier in the game when he was smiling, he had his diamonds in, but I didn't see a mouth guard. So a lot of times, like coach was talking about the other day, without the mouth guard, you lose some of that, and you can go and that can cause some trauma. But obviously him not being able to block his fall, plus him not being able having a guy on top of him, at least on the side of him, to add a little bit of extra force. And remember, turf is concrete underneath, right. So there's no give. There's really not a whole lot of play. So when he just hit and his jaw kind of bounced, and that's all she wrote. So you saw him then take him off, get evaluated pretty quick. It was probably pretty obvious. And you could see he did not have his helmet, which tells you that he did have a concussion. And then they just took him off. To my knowledge, that we know of, I reviewed his history. He did not have a concussion up to date. So this may be his first one.
Yeah,
which is cool. Maybe he had one in high school or something that we don't know about. But in general, he has an increased chance to return for week 5 because of the timing of it. They're playing in Seattle, so maybe that plays a role. But in general, I think I'd say he got lucky, but any concussion is severe, and sometimes they're unpredictable, but they're all unique. And in general, I think there's maybe a 70% chance he's able to play in week 5. But the more important thing is to make sure he progresses through the protocol and he's able to clear it. We saw this week Devonta Smith and Trey McBride are not going to be able to clear the protocol. Neither have entered what I call stage 4, which is doing partial practice. So neither have made it there yet, and it's Friday, and therefore it's not possible for them to do a partial practice and then on another day do a full practice and then get cleared, because today's the last practice of the week for Sunday games. So therefore neither will be able to have time. Adding a little bit more, AJ Brown hasn't practiced yet as well. He's dealing with that hamstring strain that he suffered a couple weeks ago, and unfortunately, he's not going to be able to probably go either. And also, they have a bye next week, so I think they're just being smart. We're going to have to pick up the pieces with Saquon, with Dallas Goedert, and a couple other people that are they're going to fill in, but they're going to lose their top 2 guys. Jalen might have to run a little bit more. Maybe the kid they got, Dotson, the kid they got from Washington, maybe he can help out.
Again, hey, Doc, what up, Doc?
What's going on?
Hey, I appreciate you hopping in. I know we got fucking loaded guests all day, so I appreciate you fitting us in. I know you guys talked about Nabers and shit already. Where are you at right now compared to last year? Just before you get out of here, as far as last year to this year, week 3 or week 4, wherever we are now, injury wise.
I have to look, to be honest with you, but I feel like you were a little
bit
like
off the head. Like, do you see worse injuries today, or is it the same?
I think it's more. I think it's just more. I wouldn't say worse. You know, I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of people injured, so I think it's just the volume. I put my list. I tweeted it yesterday. It looked like it was just naming players, but I was actually naming injured players, and it was 65, 66, somewhere on there. It's in the 60s, and this is just quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and only the guys that are relevant. And those aren't including the guys that are already on IR. So like it's a lot of people. And yesterday we added about 4 or 5 more between Bijan, with a shoulder. We have, Kamara should be okay. There's just so many guys. It's kind of silly at this point. Devontae Adams popped up with a hammy. Nico Collins popped up with a hammy. So Houston's going to be a little. They won't have Joe Mixon, and they won't probably have Damian Pierce. So we're pretty much depending on, and they won't have Tank Dell. So they're pretty much depending on Stephon Diggs, probably maybe Dalton Schultz, Cam Akers, and then some of the lesser, maybe John Mechie can get a little love this week. But yeah, there's a ton of injuries. I think I keep going back and forth on whether or not they're going to play Jordan Love. I feel like if he was going to play, they probably would have already announced it, but maybe they're doing it for game planning purposes. He'd be fine if he plays this week. He's got a tough matchup, so maybe it would probably be in their best interest to sit this week. But I think either way, that could go either way. I think there's a chance he plays. Skylar Thompson could also play. Probably not the best idea, but he could probably play. Russell Wilson's pretty much on the back burner right now. Mahomes will be fine with his ankle. Andy Dalton tweaked his ankle, but it's nothing big. There's a couple other quarterbacks, but those are the main ones that come to mind off the top of my head so far.
Hey, Micah Parsons walked off not in a boot, but limping last night. Is he someone to watch?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a good chance he'll have a high ankle. Does he have so he doesn't have a boot on.
Nah.
And that may be just his pride. But he should be wearing one, in my opinion. You can see he's obviously favoring it. I mean, he looks like he's, drunk or got a wood peg leg or something.
Hey, real quick before our next guest comes on, where do we have Kenneth Walker?
Give me 1 sec. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Need to. Joe's here upstairs.
Okay, I'll be up in like 5 minutes. Okay.
Kenneth Walker Jr., real quick before you get out of here.
So he got a Monday night game. He got back on the practice field limited yesterday. I think they're heading in the right direction. If he does play, he's probably going to split carries with Charbonnet.
And A.J. Brown, back, A.J. Brown? No,
they have a bye next week. They're being careful.
And Herbert?
This is them being stupid, in my opinion. They got lucky last week with his re-injury. I have a feeling he's going to play, but he shouldn't.
And with no Slater and no Alt?
Ooh.
Hey, Doc.
If he makes it through the first half, I will be astonished.
Who's the Chargers
He's going to have a
playing this week?
picture of Chris Jones in his face.
Hey,
This is Chief Week, duh. Oh,
hey,
damn, that's
Doc,
dangerous.
as you exit here and enjoy, I hope you enjoy the weekend. I know it's flooding down there. I don't know if you're in it or not.
He's safe. You missed that beginning, Coach. It didn't hit
good,
where
thank
he's
you.
at, thank God.
I'm actually going to see Dion and Shadur and Travis Hunter tomorrow.
Oh,
UCF. Yeah.
I'm going to the UCF. My wife's an alumni, and I'm an associate professor there. So we're going to the game tomorrow.
UCF beat my ass in a bowl game years ago, but Blake Bortles was there way back in the day. So, yeah, they killed us.
You played at Ball State though. That wasn't.
I played him in the bowl game, homie.
Hey,
and they had the OG coach.
Hey, Doc, hey, man, I love you. I appreciate you jumping on here and giving us some insight before we get out. But basically, this Charger O-line is the Staley O-line that he had.
Yeah.